Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host That Creepy Reading and welcome to another episode of Crappypastas. Yes, Crappypastas. Here I'm about to explain the rules on what exactly a Crappypasta is, and that is a story that is written with the intent of being good but simply fails on all levels, and that's how it differs from a troll pasta. If you'd like to submit your own Crappypastas, or would like to suggest one, simply leave a comment on my channel page, Facebook or Tumblr or whatever, social media. Anyway, we got a little bit of a special episode. Remember a while back when we started talking about other Crappypastas with a special guest? Well, I got that special guest back. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Tats from Tats.videos and this is Crappypastas.
When I was little, very, very little, I would move all the time. After about 5 times of moving within 3 years, my parents decided to settle down in one house. My parents were cheap, and when they saw this big, beautiful home for such a cheap price, they jumped on their chance to buy it. The one reason why it was so cheap, however, is that a family was murdered in it a year before the house, and the neighbors also claimed that it was haunted. My parents were skeptics, so they didn't buy into the claims, and thus they bought the house. The first few days were great. Then, things went bad. A lot of the times I would hear screaming from the basement. I would see a little girl who would point at me from the corner of her eye, and when I looked, nothing was there. The worst of it all is that every night I was greeted by shadow people standing by my bed, just looking down at me with red, demonic, lifeless eyes. I tried to tell my parents, and they just said that I was pretending. They were wrong. Oh, so very wrong. They saw that I was distressed, so one year they surprised me with my very own original Xbox, which came with its own copy of Halo Combat Evolved. I use that Xbox all the time, and the best thing about it was that it completely took my mind off the shadow people / ghost. I wouldn't even see them anymore. And I played my Xbox pretty much 24/7, and after knowing that, imagine my surprise when I found out that a second Xbox 360 that also had ghost-busting abilities was coming out. I flopped out of my bed, and I begun to save money for about 6 months. But alas, I still couldn't afford it. That Christmas, however, my parents surprised me with my very own Xbox 360. I rushed up the stairs, excited as hell, and I plugged in my brand new Xbox 360. All went well for about a week, until I played on the new 360. Among its cast of normal main characters was a main man named Steve. No first name, no last name. Just Steve. Steve was an odd fellow. He was missing one eye and had a stitch, a single stitch, in his mouth, where it should have been. He was dressed like a U.S. Army soldier. Steve never really seemed to talk to anybody. He would just kind of stare at the screen like Dr. Child Porn and twitch his one eye. The other thing that Steve would do was stalk me in the game. I'd go around the corner and BAM! He'd be right there, staring at me. I'd also noticed that in school, nobody talked about Steve. Like they didn't know about him, and all they would do is talk about characters like Master Chief or Cortana. I was sure that something was wrong when I saw him in other games too. I'd be playing Burnout, and he'd be in all the cars. As a young child, this truly scared me. It's just staring at me through the screen. And it never once occurred to me that maybe there's something wrong with my Xbox. No, I was scared, that's it. It was worse when he actually talked. He had a dark, raspy, horrifying voice, kind of like Dr. Child Porn's, that made nails on a chalkboard sound like Mozart. He would only utter 2 phrases. I want your blood, little boy. Or, I want your flesh, little boy. Which of course had its own double entendre meaning. After playing the system for about a year, Steve was stalking me throughout. He would begin to say more phrases and would seem to have more power. At 2 years, again, never occurring to me just not to play the Xbox, it would get to the point where if he said, "I want your blood, little boy," while I was holding the remote. Who the fuck calls an Xbox 360 controller a remote? I'm sorry, you don't. You call it an Xbox 360 controller. If he would say, "I want your blood," while I was holding the remote, my nose would begin to bleed. At an older age, I would tell my parents, but they were still skeptical, but they took me to a therapist instead of disregarding me. The therapist, of course, would never help at all. The worst part is that I would see that ghost girl and shadow people every night. Now, finally, after 1 month, my system got the red rings of death, getting rid of Steve and letting me get back to my original Xbox. After a few years, I completely blacked out the bad memories out of my head, and I had forgot all about Steve. We stayed in that house for 3 more years when we finally moved out. The new house was smaller and ghostless, I would fucking assume, so we planned to live there for a while. While helping, unpacking, I noticed my old Xbox 360 was in a pile, so I set it aside to play later, completely forgetting about how it was broken and what happened with the damn ghost that was taunting you for fucking 2.5 years. When we were done, I immediately plugged in my Xbox 360 and tried it. It got red ring of death for a second, and then it worked, and I was incredibly happy. I got the system updated, and after I updated, I grabbed my remote, and I was absolutely ready to play. I was halted by my actions when an old friend returned. Steve showed up on screen in his demonic glory, and he looked around. As he did, a shockwave of dead memories rushed through my head, knocking me literally back. I was angry when I saw Steve, and I was about to scream at my screen when he began to talk. "I see you've aged, little boy," Steve said in his horrible Dr. Childporn voice. "And your location, too." I was blinded by rage. I screamed again. "Don't think I forgot about you. You ruined most of my childhood." "Yes, I did," Steve calmly responded. I was even more angry now, and in my emotional pussy-ass rage, I blurted out, "What do you want?" Steve looked confused, and he began talking. Yes, I forgot to tell you." See, no, I like how no one fucking questions that this character is actually talking to the main character, and then the main character is actually, like, expecting a response out of his fucking TV. "See, back where you lived in your old house, I was a notorious killer, and I had found a big house with a nice rich family, so I sprung on my chance to kill. I jumped through the window and started silently slitting their throats of sleeping children. Then I got to the parents' room, and surprisingly the father got up and fought me. He grabbed my knife, cut out my eye, and proceeded to slice my mouth and lips to bits so I would stop attacking him. But I couldn't. The urge was just too strong. I ended up knocking him down and killing him. Fucking killing him. Followed by my rage of his killing his bitch wife. When I found out what he's done, on my way out, I got a light and fell to the ground and died because of blood loss, of course. You know, because when you fall to the ground because you've got... Fucking retard. The ghosts you see are the family, and the cold harvest of your fresh blood. Something bullshit. Now that I have you, and now that my powers are through the roof, I'm charging up all the time so I can start the session. I was horrified, and then I asked, "What do you mean by session?" Steve raised his arms, and I felt my own blood seeping out of me, and I couldn't stop it. I tried to get up and get some bandages or something to stop all the blood gushing out of my body, but I couldn't move. I just watched as I felt blood trickle out of every orifice. I'm like, okay, a little too much information there, boy. My skin grew pale and became light. There was no hope. I laid back, trying to ignore the pain. Sorry, I can't stop thinking about butthole bleeding. When I opened my eyes the next time I was in the middle of the street, I looked at a sign. I was in Boston, Massachusetts, far away from my home in Seattle. I only had $20 in my pocket. Thrift shop, anyone? So I knew I couldn't get back to my home anytime soon. I was soon able to get a job and eventually enough money to afford an apartment. I've been there for 4 months and very recently decided to call my parents again. As all the other times they hadn't picked up, it rang 3 times when my mom picked up. "Hello, Mom?" I asked. "Yes, hun. I think you have the wrong number," she answered. I replied, "Stop playing, Mommy!" She didn't answer for the second time. Then she responded, "We don't have a son." "Not anymore." I had forgotten that she hadn't known that I had somehow gotten here and that I wasn't kidnapped or dead. No, I'm not dead. You see, I moved to Boston and forgot to say bye. I'm so sorry, Mom, I told her. She didn't answer for 10 seconds, and when she finally did that, she said, it's not that he's missing. About 4 months ago, we found him in his new room, dead on the spot. I was so shocked, I dropped the phone on the ground, shattering it to bits. Really? I was expecting a who was phone moment there. All right, moving on. This next part is going to be narrated by Tats, simply known as the Forgotten Spider-Man.
I always loved comics, especially superhero comics. Like a lot of people, I grew up reading Superman, Batman, Captain America, all that good stuff. But my absolute favourite was Spider-Man, so it's no surprise that I grew up to work at a comic book store, but that's not important. You want to know about the story. Well, one day after work I stopped off at this little rundown toy store. Why'd you go in there? The guy that ran the place looked about nonchalantly, almost as if I wasn't there. I looked around, there were a few nice collectibles on the shelves, but what really caught my eye was a strange action figure. It was a Spider-Man action figure, but unlike any I've ever seen. It was all red, its webbing patterns were disorganised, the spider was crooked and looked like a real spider. Also, the lenses appeared to be broken. There were small painted-in cracks in the mask lenses. That unnerved me a little bit, but I still thought it was cool. I bought it for a mere 50 cents, and a comic book was given to me for free. "Comes with the figure," the store owner said. The only thing I ever heard him say while I was there. I left and brought it home to my apartment. Wait, if he said comes, I'm sure he would have said the price of it too, so that can't be anything he said. I set the toy on a shelf with the rest of my personal collection. Yes, I'm a nerd, get over it, you're here for the story, right? Anyways, I took the comic out of the bag and actually looked at it. It was creepy, to say the least. It looked like an homage to Amazing Fantasy issue 15, Spider-Man's first appearance. The title read, The Forgotten Spider-Man, issue 0. It looked like the action figure, but the person he was holding looked limp, his head at an unnatural angle, his eyes closed. It didn't say who wrote or illustrated it, no comics code or authority symbol, not even a Marvel logo. It started with Peter Parker, as per expectation, attending the radioactivity demonstration. I began to feel nostalgic as my eyes scanned the panels. The spider was caught up in the radioactive energy, it landed on Peter's hand and it bit him. That was normal. But then I noticed something weird, more like frightening. Instead of just a bite, blood poured from the wound, it covered Peter's arm. He was screaming, begging for help as the others looked on in horror. His body became covered in red, reminiscent of the carnage symbol, and strange black cords ripped from his wrists and ankles, wrapping into a disorganized web pattern that I had seen on the toy. The spider that bit Peter crawled onto his chest and became a part of his body. Our scientist reached out to Peter, but Peter lashed out and attacked him, strangling the others with black webbing in a mindless rampage. Suddenly I forgot that I was a 25-year-old man, and I, like a frightened child, whispered, Spider-Man. I continued reading. Spider-Man, if I could call him that, started brutally murdering people. The blood on the page was such a deep shade of red, I almost thought that it was inked with real blood. I had to put it down. I was getting sick to my stomach. Then something caught my eye. I turned to see, sitting on top of my fridge, was the toy. It was crouched in the trademark Spider-Man pose. It was freaky. I had put it on my shelf, standing straight up. The cracked lens had looked at me, and not just positioned in my direction, it was literally looking at me. I don't know how, but somehow I knew it wanted me to keep reading the comic, so I picked it up and opened again. Now if that was me, I'd just walk out the door. I'm not having any of that. Okay. Spider-Man was still killing, but what I saw only made it worse. He was making his way to his home, ripping off Mary Jane's head and beating people with a spine along the way. I was getting horrified, and then, in a full splash panel, he had reached his house. Killed his Uncle Ben first, blind with rage, and then ripped his arm off, beating Aunt May to death with it. I was getting sick again. I could have sworn I heard laughing in the back of my mind. It was the end of the issue. I saw a preview of the next one, which showed Spider-Man holding what looked to be Otto Octavius by the throat. I was grateful that the issue was over, but mortified by its contents. I turned to look at the Spider-Man toy. It was gone. Then I felt the issue slip away. In a fraction of a second, the toy was gone, taking the comic with it. How does that work? I sighed with relief until a voice spoke in mine in a cruel, mocking tone. Till next time, true believers. Alright. It's been a month since this happened. I learned that an artist who had attempted to submit his work, a full horror-themed Spider-Man comic book, to Marvel Comics had died of overexhaustion, never eating or drinking, only working until his body just gave out. I learned this after searching up The Forgotten Spider-Man on the internet, an article about the artist being the only thing I could find. There was an image of the artist's desk, including in the article, showing an unfinished cover of the comic book I had read. I was still traumatized by the events of that day, but I couldn't help feeling bad for this artist, as all he wanted to do was something to appreciate his work. Now I suppose that I'm that person, because I got this in my mail today, sending an envelope with no return address. It was The Forgotten Spider-Man Issue 1. Wow. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, literally, if I looked up and saw a Spider-Man toy just looking at me, I would probably, just walk out the room. I wouldn't pick up the comic and start reading it again. What kind of idiot does that? Yeah, that's, I really don't know what to say about that. Wow.
I consider myself to be an exotic game critic, an amateur one at that, but nonetheless, every day I search the depths of the internet for an independent game of most any game genre, and critique them on my blog. I usually enjoy playing games that few other people have critiqued before, as my opinion can either send this game to glory, if the game deserves it of course, or damn it to obscurity, making it only known to the most hardcore fans. I'm not known to be generous with my critiques either. A few months ago I became very depressed, and being a cynical jerk didn't help with any of that. For some reason, during this time of severe depression of critiquing indie horror games helped alleviate that depression, I played through games that were very unoriginal, such as Slendy Tubbies and some very nicely made, if not poorly animated games, such as I'm Scared. The last game I played made me drop the horror genre for life. I was going across my usual sources when I finally came across a game. It didn't have any reviews, no official title, just a name of the program. Avoider.EXE. It was present and very odd. It was also very late at night, and I was starting to grow tired, and I just wanted to get this last game in before dragging myself to bed. I downloaded the game and started it up. The title screen was a very unusual thing. The title screen was very unusual for the normal Avoider genre, but common for horror. A dark pixelated lake rested upon a large grass surrounding, with a full moon at the upper center portion of the screen. There is no reflection on the moon below the lake. The game simply presented two opinions. One, play the game. The other was upgrades. I chuckled myself at the thought of an Avoider game having upgrades. I selected the play the game option and begun to play. The graphics were none too immersive. In fact, they were so pixelated that the game could be even considered of Atari generation. The objective was to, and I quote, run away. And you control the character moving back and forth between the two-dimensional plane. The enemy was, and I quote, enemy, was a darker blob, which was easily avoided. After about 2 minutes, however, the monster shot across the screen, and then it went blank. In crimson letters, the screen displayed, "You were caught." 1 click later, the main menu came back to view. The background was altered this time. Not even a second after coming back to the main menu, the moon was on the top of the screen and had 2 eye sockets flash open. They sat there, blinking at me. As I stared at the new feature cursor, it was no longer standard or nothing of a simple pointer. It was a small orange circle. This intrigued me, and wanting to see more, I pressed to play the game again and see what happened next. A pop-up on the main menu selected and informed me that I had to upgrade before continuing. The upgrade menu was just a listing of 3 available upgrades, each one with a checkbox next to it. I saw one that said Speed++, and selected it, hoping that it would make me go faster. After selecting the upgrade, however, the mouse cursor changed and developed digits, much like a baby's hand. I was thrilled, as I had not seen such a mechanic like this in a game for a long while. The next round of the game functioned identical to the first. My character did not move any faster, however the monster did. Again, after a few minutes, the monster shot across the screen, grabbed my character, the screen became black, and again in crimson letters this time, it wrote, "Still not fast enough." The main menu had changed just again. The moon had a very unnatural smile, similar to that of Majora's Mask, starting near the edge of the moon, near one of the eyes, and on the hanging edge of the other. It reminded me of a jack-o'-lantern with black orifices, which is just, magical. The next upgrade that was on the list was Timer++. I figured it didn't really matter what order I picked the upgrades in, so I was selecting them from top to bottom. The hand evolved into a very adult-looking hand. I continued to the next round. The only difference in play is that this time around, a sudden attack came sooner, and within a few seconds of starting to play, the words that came with the very next screen sent a chill down my spine. "Are you even trying, Jeremy?" it said. I silently dismissed it as a game built with me in mind, as if the creator of the game made it for me to play. Of course, everyone knows of Jeremy, the critic reviewer, because yes, that's amazing. It wouldn't be a very scary game if it didn't have my name, Jeremy. So I tailed this as if it was a con for the game, expecting better reviews in exchange. The change to the menu was more than a little ominous this time around. The moon had turned into a blood moon, lovely, and the still blue waters of the tranquil lake had morphed into a turbulent bright red whirlpool. The third upgrade was Collision++. The cursor morphed into a grotesque, elongated hand, with each digit clearly visible and forming a semicircle. Marking this as a pro, I played the game again. It was difficult to differentiate from the differences this time, as I didn't play for long. I think the monster was able to clip through walls, but again, after a few seconds of gameplay, I got this message. "Last chance," the screen said. The main menu came back up. There was no lake. There was only a blood moon staring at me, dead, smiling, directly in the middle of my screen. Slowly, the moon tilted to its right side. By reflex, I went to the upgrade screen again. This time, there was only one upgrade available. "Ability to devour souls, ++, magical," it read. I started audibly laughing at this one as I selected it, and I watched a hand transform into something more grotesque. I like how this guy explains this as grotesque. Like, it's a fucking... There's nothing grotesque about 2D images, especially like pixelated ones. It grew long, thin nails at the end of each digit. I selected play a game and prepared to start with the last round. There was nothing different at the last round. I was quickly caught. The game over screen came up a final time and it said, "You're mine!" It faded to the main menu. The moon was dead at the center of the screen. The cursor invisible. There's no options to choose from. A face in a corner in the center started to spin slowly at first, but then it got faster and brighter. It soon became too bright to look at. I smelled a very burning smell from my screen. I jolted to turn the screen off, but I stopped halfway. I was mesmerized by the spinning moon and I blacked out. The next day, I broke from my trance as daylight shone through my eyes. My screen was black with a burn at the center where the moon was, and I felt strangely empty. Not depressed anymore, just not completely empty. Over the next few days, I purchased a new monitor, made my review of the game with a warning not to play it all the way through or even at all. The game itself was removed by listing by moderators after complaints by yours truly, and I didn't get the satisfaction of it being removed. However, in fact, I hadn't had any feelings of sadness. No sadness, no happiness, just a whole depression where I used to be. Well, that was a fucking train wreck. Nothing interesting happens, and it's quite literally, word for word, a ripoff of Sonic.exe, which was actually about to become the third story, Avoider.EXE. You broke it by making it like even shittier than Sonic.exe. Okay, fuck it. Stay tuned for a quick analysis done by me and Tats of us taking the piss out of this shit. If you don't want to watch this anymore, simply click the annotation above and it should take you to the previous or next video. Have fun. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host at Creepy Reading, and today I'm here joined by Tats. Say hello, Tats.
Hello.
And we're going to be discussing the amazing stories. Tats, I wasn't able to gauge your reaction because you had yourself on mute during the recording of Xbox Forgotten. What do you think of that story?
What else can be said about it?
You know, we had Steve, you know, because fucking Steve here. I'm kind of curious on where the guy actually got his name for Steve.
Minecraft.
Like, just fucking playing Minecraft, and he's like, you know what? You know that guy, this guy on my screen right now? Yes, that is the name
that's
for our
me.
Villain. That guy, he is the perfect name for my villain. I mean, like, I was debating between Keith and Carl, but I think Steve is a way better name.
Yes. Let's see what we got here. Mario? No, can't have that.
Okay, so we can't do Mario. I thought about Luigi, but, you know, that's just too a little bit mainstream. And Lord Death Kill was already taken, so, I think Steve is better. Why Steve? Because Carl is stupid. Dummy.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Oh, he's like, I've got it. Soap. No one's thought of that name before. We call him Soap. No, we can't.
Call of Duty 4? Damn it! Okay, fuck it, Steve. Anyway, I also like how in this story he keeps on going, like, mentally, you know, deficient. Like, he's sitting there saying, like, oh, and I was seeing shadow ghost people, and then I started playing Xbox. I mean, it kind of felt like this guy was trying to put a product placement for Microsoft, like he was being paid for it. Like, Microsoft solves your deepest nightmares.
I know, it's like, I don't get that. It's like, I started seeing shadow people, and I was like, forget it, I'm gonna go back to playing games. If that was me, I'd put the controller down, I'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna take a break, I wanna see what's outside there, just start seeing shadow things, and I'm just gonna forget it, you know? Take a chill pill, don't just go back to playing games again. Who does that? Must be a hardcore gamer to do that.
I mean, like, he played the Xbox original, and he still had his Xbox original, which made the demons go away. But he started playing the 360, and the demons came back. So why not just say, fuck the 360 and go back to the original?
Yeah, just go back to playing the original Xbox, yeah.
But no, he's like, you know what? The graphics are worth it. Fuck my nightmares. Man. But, yeah, I didn't quite understand how he didn't notice this, too. Like, he did this for 2 years, mind you. Like, this wasn't, like, over a period of a day out of being curious. Like, he did this for 2 fucking years.
Then he thought, I should play a GameCube instead, or a Wii.
Oh, and then like the ending tats, where he's like, and then I woke up in Boston. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It's like, wow, that was cool. How
Why
did I
not
get
go
here?
to the police? Yeah, just go to the police and be like, hey, dog, you know I'm not supposed to be here, right? Like, I was born over there, and I think I was kidnapped. But no, he's like, I got a job, you know, and I lived here for like 4 months. And then he fucking calls his mom. He's like, sorry, I forgot to tell you I moved here. You completely omitted the fact that you were kidnapped.
It just doesn't make sense.
Xbox Forgotten, the greatest game, the creepypasta ever. Like, the thing is rife with, you know, things like demonic eyes looking down at the main character and red demon shadow. And the worst cliche that they put in there was the little girl.
Everyone's got to have that.
Yeah, because...
Everyone's Alma.
Exactly. Like, can we please stop exploiting little girls? I think little boys are a lot creepier than little girls, to be honest.
Lucius.
Lucius. By the way, expect some Lucius 2 gameplay fairly soon, because that's a magical game, and I want to do that. But yeah, Lucius is way creepier than any little girl I've ever seen. Alma was creepy until she got pregnant, and now she scares teenagers with the possibility of getting, double D, you know, it's magic. Anyway, why don't we move on to your story, Tats? Forgotten Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
The thing that baffles me is the fact that the store owner just said comments with the figure, and I even said it in the reading. I was like, I'm sure he must have said like, oh, it's 50 cents. You don't just go and walk. You know, I mean, if someone come in the store, you got to say hello. You don't just go comments with the figure. And what did you say? Comes with the figure. What comes with the figure? You know, it's just ridiculous. So that baffled me.
I could just picture him, you know, like sitting behind a cash register, you know, just smiling like very creepily, like he's like a bald middle-aged man with, like, you know, like he's fat too, and you know the guy's like, you know, puts the figure down, and then he puts the figure down on the desk. The main character doesn't say anything, and then the guy's like, comes with the figure. He's like, excuse me, what comes with the figure?
Starts rubbing the action figure. Comes with the figure. Like what?
Comes with the figure. Comes with the figure. And then the main guy just runs out with the fucking comic.
Throws the action figure at him. But yeah, I'm just saying, why does he go to a rundown toy store? It's like, you could have, there's a clean, nice one over there where everyone's shopping, but no, I'm going to go to a rundown one because I want the cheapest Spider-Man action figure. He
must have been in Detroit or something.
Yeah, I was thinking, it must be in Detroit.
So he's sitting there like, okay, there's a nice one, but now there's this one that's destroyed. I think a black guy just threw like a brick through the wall. What? Fuck it, that's my store. That's where all the cool people hang.
He said, and he talked about lenses. I was like, what are you talking about? And then he said, oh, the lenses of the action figure. I'm like, who says lenses? I didn't know what the hell he was talking about when he said that. You mean like, if you just said the eyes of the mask, that would make more sense. But it kind of threw me off when he said lenses. I was like, I remember Spider-Man coming with lenses on it.
Spider-Man glasses.
Yeah,
now only 50 cents and comes with a curse action figure and comic.
That spies on you like a cat on top of a fridge when you read comics.
Yeah, that's another thing. The way that the guy tried to make the toy look scary. Toys aren't scary. Have you seen Toy Story? They're lovable and cute.
How the hell do you make?
Oh my god!
How do you make a toy do that? Like, I don't think the articulation of the toy would actually make it do that.
Yeah, like was it a figurine, or was it like, you know, like an action figure, or
how big was it? He must have like really good eyes. What was he? Like, that makes sense. Where was he? I thought he was in his room, right? All of a sudden he's magically transported into his kitchen and he sees it on his fridge.
See, he's homeless, so like his room equates to the trash can, and the fridge equates to the ice cooler outside of the liquor store.
Unless he was in an apartment, and that makes sense because it's all in one area. It doesn't actually explain that, I don't think. Oh, no, wait, it was an apartment, was it? I can't remember.
No, I don't think it was an apartment. And even apartments, like, usually the apartment will have, like, a living room, kitchen area. Like, the living room and kitchen area are usually, like, connected. And then there's, like, your own room. Like, it's usually a small room, but it's your own room.
Yeah.
You know? It's not like you just walk in there and there it is. But I have seen, like, I mean, like, maybe if the guy was... I know in the UK they don't quite do it like that. But I haven't seen really many rooms. I mean, like, I've seen apartments that haven't came with, you know, sinks. I mean, sorry, apartments that came without bathrooms, but still, I mean, like, I kind of picture that guy just like, I don't like leaving my room, so I'm just gonna, you know, buy a refrigerator, you know, and just put it right there.
Why not? What's
You know,
the
he
thing
has, like,
that...
an all-in-one.
What's the thing? The Forgotten Spider-Man. He sees the figure on top of the fridge, opens up the fridge, and there's other action figures as well, just staring at him inside the fridge. That'd be kind of funny.
That would be.
There's Venom
hilarious.
there, and you know, Carnage is
They're
in
like
there.
having a party, you know, like they have like.
Well, yeah, but if he said that it was, if he said it would look like Carnage, then if Carnage action figure was inside the fridge and it looked like Spider-Man instead, that'd be kind of weird.
You know,
I think you bought the wrong toy.
You know, and
The
then,
Forgotten
like,
Carnage. That's what it should be
yeah,
called.
and then like moving on into story, you have the Spider-Man beating people to death with a spine, like.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I don't know how that...
Awkward.
If that was the case, I'm pretty sure the police would destroy Spider-Man, or something like that.
Or the Avengers.
How do you beat someone... How do you beat someone to death with... I don't know, it just baffles me. I think you're playing too much Prototype, so...
I don't know, can you beat some people to death with their, like, spines and, like, tear people's arms off and then beat them to death with it? I don't think you can do that.
Well,
like,
you can always go to the
so
biology lab
stupid.
and try it. Take the skeleton spine from the structure and just try it out. Beat someone to death with it.
Teacher, I gotta do a quick test. Starts whipping her with the...
Yeah. Don't worry, it's virtually painless. It won't hurt. We're just trying something out.
Like, I know, like, if you put enough effort into it, but it just seems like a very, like, useless tool. Especially when you got, like, those... You know, like those things that are able to tear people apart. You're just like, fuck it. No, I'm going to use my spine.
Oh, and the other
Because
theory,
I'm edgy.
teacher, is if you just hold out your arm, yeah, like that, and I just want to see if I can rip it off. It won't hurt. And that's the other theory. 'Cause apparently, we can rip arms off with incredible ease.
Tears her arm off and starts beating the other student. Like, okay.
Right.
I tore her arm off. She's now dead. But we still got one last test. I need to beat you to death with this arm. Just start, like, he's just like, why are you slapping yourself? Why are you slapping yourself?
The students just turn into Quan Chi from Mortal Kombat. That's what Quan Chi does.
But yeah, like the story just has too much blood. There's just too much cliche. Like, I genuinely could get behind like if a story was longer, you know, and like they got rid of all the ridiculous blood, and you know they got like a weird story. And then there was that really weird bit at the end where the guy's like, I was watching the news and apparently like the guy who was making this comic died.
Yeah. Because of over-extortion or over-exhaustion. Yeah.
Sounds like me when I work on my YouTube videos. Not kidding. I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna actually look that up. I'm gonna see if this guy was being naughty and was lying.
I love the fact that he said that, oh my god, this comic has got so much blood in it. I'm 25 years old and I almost vomited. I'm like, really? Really? You're gonna vomit over a magazine depicting it? Blood.
I'm looking through Google and I'm not finding like anything involving this. Oh god. Yeah, no, Marvel, there is no, the story is fictitious. We aren't making fun of a true story. Because, if you look it up, you know. But I do see an image on Google of Spider-Man with, like, 6 arms. So, there's that. Which is stupid. Alright, so why don't we go into the final story, The Avoider, which is a magical one indeed.
What if we send that to Stanley?
Stanley. I wonder what he would say.
Yeah.
No, I'll tweet it to him. But anyway, the Avoider.
He makes it a film.
Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, the Unforgotten Spider-Man. And it lasts only like 10 minutes. And it grosses like
minutes.
2 billion.
The trailer shows all the good scenes, which there are none, so there's just no trailer.
But the trailer just shows a guy going into the shop buying the action figure. And the camera just zooms in on the action figure. Coming soon.
The camera zooms in on the action figure and then back at the guy who's like, comes with
a figure.
Coming soon.
And he does that sort of grin towards the camera, just like in Too Many Cooks.
Yes, and then like there's like that little ding.
The little teeth. Bing.
Yeah, like the bing, you know. Oh my god, that would be absolutely hilarious.
Get your screwed up action figure today.
Anyway, let's move on to our final story of the night. Avoider.EXE.
Can we just avoid altogether?
Out of curiosity, what do you think of it? Which, you know, I've read it, so.
Just as weird as the last two.
See, this thing wouldn't be that bad initially. The writing's good, it's coherent. There's a few typos, and you probably will hear that because I usually try not to edit it as much as I can. But sometimes ad-libbing is needed to make the story sound a little bit nicer. But anyway, Avoider, it would be a decent story if it wasn't quite literally almost just ripped off of Sonic.exe. They even have like EXE. It's like
EXE.
It's kind of, it's like PewDiePie decided to make his own Sonic.exe, you know? And on top of that, there's one thing that really made me, you know, go like, this has to be a Crappypasta. The last game I played that made me drop the horror genre for life. Like, really? You passed out while playing a game, and now you can't play horror games anymore?
I know, right?
Like, nothing happened. You just fucking played a stupid-ass Atari-sounded game, and that ruined the horror genre for you? No more Outlast, no more Amnesia, The Dark Descent, no more Five Nights at Freddy's.
It's too much for him.
The Atari, man.
I just gotta take a break. It's just too much. The tension, it's just too overwhelming.
Like, the character was even laughing, like, at the stupidness of the game, but as soon as he passes out, it's like, oh, fuck, I passed out, man. I blinked. What the fuck? My body blinks?
Can't handle the excitement.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so ridiculous. And it's just, you know, and the guy's talking about the Avoider genre. He's like talking about, you know, how he likes to find exotic games and review them. And like, he even like justifies something as if he's actually well known. I would really love a link to your blog, sir, so we can know how well known you were, because I mean, like, if he isn't well known, then he must look like a complete, like, supreme, like, retard. Oh my gosh. Just so you know, you might be getting another Crappypasta fairly soon. One called Naruto, the Lost Villager, simply because it has the word Naruto, the Lost Villager on it.
There's probably loads of them, though.
Yeah. But anyway, Avoider.exe, it could have been good if it wasn't a blatant ripoff of Sonic.exe and all, you know, basically Sonic.exe taking my PewDiePie. What else can you say? Which I'm probably going to have his face in the thumbnail.
Yeah, but what, yeah, and I'm betting there's going to be one called SonicChew.exe.
Can someone make SonicChew.exe? I will read it on the channel. I issue you
RoseChew.exe.
Yes, I make a sequel, RoseChew.exe, and then make like a crossover event where they fight each other. RoseChew versus SonicChew.exe.
Coming soon, ChrisChan.exe.
Comes with the figure.
DSP.exe. It's called the King of EXE.
Yes. But, yeah, Avoider.exe, decently written, just poorly executed. Anyway, out of 5, what would you give Forgotten Spider-Man tats?
Give it like 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. I'll give Xbox Forgotten diabetes. 0. It doesn't even feel like there's any effort put into the story. It's very cliched. There's nothing interesting about it, and it had a who was phone effort. The entire thing needs to be rewritten. There is no redeeming factors about that story, and it's just absolutely terrible. Avoider.EXE, I would give 3 out of 5, but it's just rippy off enough and just terrible enough to make it to this thing. I hope you enjoyed Crappypastas, and Tats, did you enjoy being here?
Yeah, I did. It was good fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yes. So, with that being said, I'm moving on. You can laugh, Tats.
Well, I didn't,
Anyway.
because I thought it was terrible.
Oh, lovely, thank you. This has been Crappypastas, everyone, and goodbye.